It's getting awkward for Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield. Cleveland traded for quarterback Deshaun Watson. They replaced Baker Mayfield, their former number 1 overall pick. Baker, by the way, he demanded a trade, and then they traded for Deshaun Watson. Like, they just didn't even listen to Baker. They don't care at all. I'm sure they laughed at him, and he's like, I want a trade! They're like, shut up, little dog. Like, he's like a little yappy puppy. Maybe, I don't know. Baker's available. And the Browns are not asking for very much. From what I hear, it's not like the Browns are like, Baker, we demand a first-round pick if you want Baker Mayfield. No. They're like, we just want this guy off a roster. Like, give us whatever you're offering. We'll listen to trades and make it happen. But nobody wants him. Nobody wants Baker. That's brutal. It's one of the worst. I mean, I thought it was bad in his career. I thought there were bad moments throughout his career, but this is definitely the lowest point of Baker Mayfield's career to this point. And it's weird because he's not an obvious bust. He's not Jamarcus Russell. He's not Josh Rosen. Like, he's done some good stuff. He's had some solid years in the NFL, won a playoff game. Like, it's a very weird position for Baker Mayfield and the way the NFL teams view him. With him openly available, like, clearly Cleveland wanted to move him. Even after that happened, Indy made a move to go get Matt Ryan. Atlanta ignored that Baker was available. They got Marcus Mariota. The Saints signed Jameis Winston. They give him a contract. So I think there's no way the Browns are going to have Baker Mayfield on the roster come this fall when training camp happens. I think Baker is a guy that, man, I would not want to compete against him in a quarterback position. I think he would be cutting, kind of rude. I think he's insecure and really hard to compete against just with the way he treats people. I'm sure he's great unless you're his direct threat. And then he's like probably not very great to his people who feel threatening to him. I don't get a sense that Baker's very welcoming to them. And so is he going to get along with Deshaun Watson? No, absolutely no way. He's out. They got to get rid of Baker Mayfield. And they might end up having to cut him to get him off their roster. There's only 2 teams out there in the NFL right now, by the way, that might even want him. Seattle has Drew Lock at quarterback. There's no way that's... I don't feel great about that. Carolina has Sam Darnold. Do they really want Baker? I don't know. Baker's a former number 1 overall pick. He's 26 years old, 27 April, I think 16th is his birthday. And he was bad last year. Baker was bad. And everyone talks about how, Baker was injured. Baker didn't play well because he was hurt. Here's the thing. If you're too hurt to play well, don't play. If Baker played hurt and that's why he played badly, then he ruined his career, frankly. Because what's the narrative today if Baker got hurt last year and didn't play at all? We'd be saying, the Browns gave up on Baker. You know, Baker had a good year 2 years ago, won a playoff game, and he got hurt and his team just quit on him. That's what we would be saying today. But because he played through an injury and played badly, Baker sucks. Like, that's the narrative today. Also, I know he hurt his shoulder on his non-throwing arm, and I'll tell you what, even that would, it's not like you don't need your left shoulder to throw if you're a right-handed quarterback. Like, the way everything, it goes through your shoulders. It's really important. I can't imagine tearing my labrum on even my non-throwing shoulder and still throwing a football. That'd be brutal. But here's the thing about all of it. Even the injury excuse, which I hear you, I get it. And then my rebuttal would be, well, he shouldn't have played then if it really affected how he played. However, the problem wasn't only that Baker physically didn't look very good. He made terrible decisions. He was bad with the football. And I'm sorry, but your left shoulder isn't your brain. And unless Baker Mayfield had a brain injury last year, he was bad with the football, like deciding where to throw it, reading defenses, making terrible decisions. And that's just bad quarterback play, no matter what happens with your left shoulder. So, I don't know, man. Also, unfortunately for Baker, he's viewed as a volatile personality. People look at the Browns locker room and say, hey, Baker hurt their locker room. He didn't work with Odell Beckham Jr., who very much went to LA and had a great time and worked very well. Then demanding a trade wasn't a great look. I was fine when Baker put out a statement saying, hey, these are uncertain times. Thank you to Cleveland. That was fine to me. A lot of people said it was childish. I'm like, he's just acknowledging that he doesn't know what's going to happen. But then demanding a trade seemed a little bit childish. And Baker, his biggest problem, in my opinion, is when you look at Baker Mayfield, he doesn't have an inner peace about who he is and about his place in the world. I think of great Idris Elba, the actor, right? He comes across as very suave, confident, cool, comfortable. Like he knows who he is. He knows his place in life. He's unbothered. Baker Mayfield is eager. He's more like a angry bulldog than a peaceful, calm, cool, comfortable person. And that's a big problem, I think, for your quarterback, to be like constantly eager. And if you criticize him or threaten him, like, he just starts barking and, getting ready to fight. Like there's a lack of peace there with Baker that is a big problem. And teams are nervous to take a risk on him. So I don't know, man. I'm very curious to see what the rest of his career will look like. I've got an open mind. But in the next few months, the next few weeks, years even, what's going to happen to Baker Mayfield? A former number 1 overall pick who, not the tallest, not the fastest, has a decent arm, actually, like arm strength-wise. Like he's not horribly physically, he's not ungifted completely, but Baker certainly isn't Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Trey Lance or all these young, incredibly physically gifted quarterbacks. And so that's going to hurt Baker. He's viewed kind of like a Case Keenum level quarterback, which teams aren't lining up to make Case Keenum their franchise quarterback. And you add the lack of massive physical ability. He hasn't played great recently. They're worried about his personality. Like, there's a lot of reasons to avoid Baker Mayfield. And I think he'll go somewhere eventually. God, how sad would it be if the guy had to go to, like, the XFL to get playing time? That's insane to think about. But, look, the Seattle Seahawks are giving him a hard look, I'm sure, and trying to decide, does he really fit with us? And I think what's going to happen, my belief at this point is Baker's going to get released and cut by the Cleveland Browns. Could be a couple months from now. No one's going to trade for him. The market's very low. And I think he gets released, and then he can go meet with Seattle, talk to them, get to know their staff. They can decide if they want to trade for him. I think we could see a similar situation in Carolina. Does Carolina want to try to make another quarterback work when they couldn't make Sam Darnold work? How does Sam Darnold and Baker work together in the same locker room? Do they get along? Baker's much more yappy and loud and kind of dominant. Does that clash with Sam Darnold? I don't know. It's a weird situation. And unfortunately, the longer it takes for Baker to get moved, the more and more awkward it gets because it's clear nobody really wants the guy. And I'm surprised that Indianapolis didn't say, like, we'll give you a 6th-round pick for Baker Mayfield. Like, we'll give you something small to see if we can work. Because Baker is literally over 10 years younger than maybe it's exactly 10 years, something like that. Like Baker's 26, Matt Ryan is 36 years old. They're both going to be 27 and 37 come this fall. So, I'm surprised Indianapolis wanted Matt Ryan instead of Baker Mayfield, given that Baker Mayfield has potential to be your long-term quarterback, and Matt Ryan is good for like this year or next year, and we'll see in 3 years if he can still play. So that's surprising to me, actually. I thought Baker was an obvious move to Indy, but they didn't want him, and nobody seems to want him. And it's the worst and lowest and darkest point of Baker Mayfield's career. Now, here's one way it could work out to help him, by the way. I've said before that Baker Mayfield, I think, got to the NFL and had a motivation problem, meaning that, and not like he wasn't motivated, but meaning that, so I'll tell you a personal story from my life. I had a coach my sophomore year of high school tell me I was too small and I'd never play quarterback in college. So I transferred schools. I said, F you, I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else. And I went to another high school, excuse me. I broke all of their records at a better high school that wins a lot more games. We made the playoffs 2 years in a row. My former team went like literally 0-11 or 0-12 or something horrible. It was pretty fun to watch, by the way. Watch them be awful and us winning playoff games and shredding other defenses. And I got to college. I made a college football team. And that was like a big moment in my life where I'm like, I overcame adversity. I made it. I proved that coach wrong. And for 2 years, there was this fire in my belly, this anger, this intensity. And when I got to college, I'd already achieved my goal, and then I flamed out. I literally was like, well, now what? I worked my whole life to get here, and for 2 years I've been just going, and I proved that guy wrong, and now I have nothing else to motivate me. And the end of my journey was only the beginning of what it should have been, if that makes sense. It should have been the beginning of my journey in college, and I viewed it as like the final destination. So Baker Mayfield, his whole life, has seen himself as an underdog. I think similar to the way I did in high school. He had to walk on to 2 colleges. People called him too short, not good enough. And then he won the Heisman Trophy. Then he became the number 1 overall pick. And the story he would tell himself along the way is, I'm an underdog. Nobody wants him. It's hard to tell yourself you're an underdog when you are a number 1 overall pick who won the Heisman Trophy. I'm sorry, buddy, but nobody views you as an underdog anymore. You're kind of the guy people are believing in to make it work. So I think the story Baker's told himself for a while hasn't been aligned with the reality of his situation. I'll tell you what, he's an underdog now. Nobody wants Baker. Baker's got a long mountain to climb ahead of him if he ever wants to be a franchise quarterback again in the NFL. I think finally, whether it's a self-fulfilling prophecy or not, the story Baker Mayfield, I think, tells himself that he's an underdog, that nobody wants him. It's finally true again. And he seems to thrive in that situation. So in a weird way, we'll see how things work out. I would not be shocked if 5 years from now we find out that Baker Mayfield being unwanted was actually the best thing that ever happened to him. It lights a new fire under his belly. It helps him rededicate to football. It helps him make a lot of changes in his personal life and to his personality and reevaluate how he views himself in the world. And there's an outcome here in the world of infinite possibilities and alternate dimensions and timelines and stuff, which I love to think about. What could happen versus what will happen. There is an outcome here on some timeline somewhere where Baker Mayfield goes to a Seattle or a Carolina or somewhere, we don't know. Maybe somebody gets hurt midseason and then he becomes the starting quarterback of another football team, replacing a guy who is injured. And then he becomes like, how about Tennessee? Could Baker Mayfield go to Tennessee and eventually take Ryan Tannehill's job? Like that's not out of the realm of possibility. And so there is a timeline somewhere where this is the best thing that ever happened to Baker Mayfield. And that is a very fun, intriguing, interesting thought. So I'm so fascinated. What is going to happen to Baker Mayfield? I don't know. I really have no idea. But I'm very curious, and I'm going to definitely keep watching what happens, and we'll see if and when a trade happens anytime soon.